Now, so first of all, you are wearing a beautiful shirt with Two Wheels for Life logo on it. So tell me a little bit about Two Wheels for Life.
Two Wheels for Life was an organisation we founded 3 years ago, but it's really a sister organisation to another one that we established 30 years ago, called Riders for Health. And Riders for Health is an organisation that's focused on the running and management of vehicles to get healthcare predictably and reliably and cost effectively to rural communities in Africa, using motorcycles but also ambulances.
And where does the need for that come? What made you get that started 30 years ago?
I've been in the motorcycle community for all my life, and I love motorcycle racing. I'm very interested in it. I watch it all the time, but essentially it is going round and round in circles. And both Randy Mamola, our co-founder, and I felt that we wanted something bigger, something that connects motorcycles to the real world and connected us to something in the real world, rather than living in a sort of microcosm. And so we started to raise money for various things in Africa, and I happen to be very interested in why Africa has been, post-industrial revolution, in such a difficult situation. It bothered me and interested me. And so we visited Africa, in fact Somalia, and saw women and children dying for lack of health care reaching them, women being taken to hospital in wheelbarrows, children dying of malaria because treatment couldn't reach them. And we thought, this is something we can do. This is something we understand. And I think one of the issues is that the big NGOs, all the NGOs working in Africa, are very focused on what they do, but nobody thinks about the transport, whether it's because they think, oh, this is kind of greasy hands thing, or whether it's too commonplace or something. But we thought this is a gap that is definitely there, and we can deal with it.
So the issue is that the communities you're talking about, they're distributed, they're small villages, and there aren't necessarily good roads, there are certainly no trains. So for them to get to a doctor, there isn't a doctor in every village, and for them to get to a doctor, they obviously need to travel somehow, and it's that link, that's where the broken link is.
The problem is that rural communities are small, they're very far away from centre. There are no good roads. Many of the pathways to rural communities are just animal tracks, people tracks. And as well as being distant from centres, they're also very hard the terrain is difficult. So the problem isn't just getting a sick person to a doctor or a nurse. It's also getting health education, nutrition for babies, weighing babies, all those things that women don't have to walk for. They shouldn't have to do that. Health workers are trained to do that, to do those things, but they can't get to the people. Mm-hmm. So, but then of course in an emergency, an obstetric difficulty, the woman can't get to a health centre. And I know in my experience, you can go to a health centre or quite a big hospital, and there's no doctor there anyway, because they can't get to the hospital. Mm-hmm. So this issue of logistics and transportation is a huge issue across the African continent, particularly in rural areas, and Africa is a rural continent.
So tell me briefly why motorbikes are a solution to this problem.
Motorcycles are a good solution to this because they're cheaper to buy, cheaper to run, and they're very appropriate for individuals who need to get out to rural communities. And you know, there's quite a status symbol from in a political or hierarchical situation where somebody really like a health worker would be allowed, as it were, their vehicle wouldn't be they wouldn't suddenly find it gone because somebody had used it to go to a conference. So that's her motorcycle. She can use it. It's low cost to buy, low cost to run, and it's very suitable for the terrain because it's a single. It's two wheels in line, not four, which you can be very sort of shaky, and it's something that when a little motorcycle arrives in a community, everybody hears it and they all come out, they know the health workers there. So there's so many benefits to it. But then the training of maintaining it and safe riding are really critical to using the motorcycle.
So that's what Two Wheels for Life does. It raises money here in the UK and then it contributes to this system for the transport.
Yeah.
And tell me about how that is, that relationship then with the electric bikes, because these are not electric bikes that are appropriate in this environment. So where does the relationship with MotoE come in?
Well, MotoE comes in from two directions really. One is that we really need to test the electric motorcycle in Africa because energy is difficult to get. Fuel in rural communities is hard to get hold of. But also, you know, it's important to test the new technology in Africa, but we also know that this may be too difficult to do. We're looking at solar power, we're looking at all sorts of ways, but we don't think at the moment to recharge a motorcycle at a centre and send it out and back is yet feasible, but we must keep on trying. And of course, it's, you know, everybody wants to see a move away from fossil fuels, so we've got to make sure that we're looking at that.
I mean, what's the response within the motorcycle community here itself? So you had a whole day, the Day of Champions, yesterday. How much money did you raise?
At the auction, we raised £91,000, but our gate money, our gate income is about 150,000. So over the weekend, we'll have raised about £200,000, and it'll really go straight to the programmes in Africa.
And who are your partners in Africa? Are you working with local people there? How does all that work?
When we set up Riders for Health 30 years ago, we made a decision that everything must be Africa-led. This can't be something where Europeans come in, roll their sleeves up and say, move over, guys. This has to be Africa-led, and each country trains the next country. So the Gambia team will train the Nigeria team, the Lesotho team, and so on. So we have Riders for Health teams in each of those countries, and we think very carefully about the African leadership and also not bringing in a gender bias into the motorcycle and automotive area to make sure women and men are trained at the same level and in the same jobs. So those are two very strong principles for us. But also we have very strong Riders for Health centres in 7 African countries. So those are the partners that Two Wheels for Life works with. Then Riders for Health will work with ministries of health and other NGOs that need vehicles, managed vehicles.
It sounds, I mean, there's lots to talk about, we probably shouldn't talk for too long, but what's your vision of the future here? Like, how quickly is this growing? We can see that kind of transport is something we take for granted. We live in a country where there are very, very good transport links, and it's almost hard to imagine not just being able to go somewhere. What does the future look like?
Well, we all know in the developed world that we're all rethinking how transportation works, but we mustn't bring, as you know, I mean, it's becoming a cliche about bringing a first world problem to a developing world context, because it's much more important that people get health care, whether they're using an internal combustion engine to get it or not. But as we gradually move our knowledge about electric vehicles, we must also keep on testing that and finding ways to make sure that at the right time that the electric use of vehicles is in place there. So,
and it's certainly got potential, because I know generally in the world of electric vehicles, they require much less maintenance.
They do. They don't have the same moving parts as a 4-stroke or 2-stroke engine, internal combustion engine. So they are very much less in need of maintenance, but nevertheless an electric motor still needs maintenance, and we must never forget the maintenance, because so often people send things or take things to the African continent and forget about sustainability. How do you maintain this? Where do you get the parts from? Is somebody trained to do this? And is that person trained to train other people? So it's really, I think we've set the principles in place, and I think migrating gradually from the internal combustion engine to electric is where I see the future. Yeah.
So there's another logo on your arm there, which is the Ride for Life. Tell me about that.
Well, the Ride for Life is an opportunity that the promoters, the owners of MotoGP have given to us, to Two Wheels for Life. They have now introduced electric bike racing into the MotoGP, and they're allowing us to sell the opportunity to a member of the public to ride an electric bike during not during the racing, but on track at the time of the MotoGP. And it's an amazing thing to do, and for the Dorna to have done for us, but also we have to face the fact that all of us who've been involved in racing for years and years love the sound, the smell, the vibration of the earth with MotoGP, and we all have to learn to love the new technology. And there is a little bit of prejudice, and I think this helps us to begin to undermine that prejudice. But it's also a great opportunity for us to raise money again for our work in Africa.
A win for everybody.
It's a win for everyone.
Brilliant. It looks like great work. It's fabulous what you're doing. So
Thank
I hope
you.
you continue to have a great time here. Thank you very much.
Thank you
Andrea.
very much.